Your Honors, on the night of May 13th, 2010, at about 10:25 p.m., a fatal accident occurred in the town of Olney, Massachusetts, at what is known as Dead Man's Curve, the intersection of Jan Street and Dean Road. Sadly, 2 out-of-town people died that night. An innocent young man, Mr. Eddie Burnson, has unfairly suffered the consequences of the Olney Police Department's inadequate work at investigating this accident. At what should have been a time of new beginnings, Mr. Burnson has been deprived of his high school graduation and has since been charged with involuntary manslaughter for allegedly removing the stop sign at this intersection. Today, the Commonwealth must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Burnson stole the stop sign at the intersection of Jan Street and Dean Road, and that the absence of the stop sign was the proximate cause of the accident. They will not be able to meet this heavy burden. The story behind this fatal accident began when senior class president Sasha Burke organized and supervised the senior class prank held on the night of May 13th, 2010. This prank, a scavenger hunt, required students to find and take specified objects and bring them back to the high school parking lot. One of the items on the list was any street sign. 3 students turned in items in the any street sign category: Tanny Kang, Matt Brewer, and Eddie Burnson. The evidence will show that when questioned that very night, Ms. Burke could not identify who had turned in the stop sign or if a stop sign had even been turned in. The police questioned her again the next day. They reminded her that she would be facing charges and that her 2 good friends, Tanny Kang and Matt Brewer, were the other suspects. It was only then that she identified the defendant, Mr. Eddie Burnson, as the one who had taken the stop sign. We expect the Commonwealth's next witness, 74-year-old Pat Doherty, to testify that on the night of May 13th, 2010, he saw someone speeding away after taking the stop sign at the foot of Dean Road and Jan Street around 10:15. Mr. Doherty reported 3 license plate letters to the police, as well as the truck's description. The evidence will show that Sergeant Don Beasley, the lead investigator for the town of Olney, did not conduct a thorough investigation. The 3 license plate letters provided by Pat Doherty did not match any of the 3 suspects, but all 3 suspects had trucks that generally matched the truck description. Despite this, Sergeant Don Beasley did not even question the other suspects. Sergeant Beasley did question 74-year-old Pat Doherty. He suggested the license plate number of Eddie Burnson. He did not even bring up the license plate letters of Tanny Kang or Matt Brewer. It was then that Pat Doherty identified the defendant, Mr. Eddie Burnson, as the one who had taken the stop sign. Today, the defense will present 3 witnesses. Our first witness, Mr. Eddie Burnson, will testify in his own defense. He will testify that he was never even at the intersection in question that night. We will then present Mr. Armani Gabriel, the owner of Olivia's Deli. Mr. Gabriel will testify that on the night of the hunt, Mr. Burnson arrived at his store, Olivia's Deli, at approximately 9:50 p.m. The 2 had a conversation, and Mr. Burnson left well after 10 p.m. Your Honors, it would have been impossible for Mr. Burnson to have taken the stop sign because of the time it would have taken from him to get from the deli to the intersection and then to the high school parking lot. Finally, we will present Dr. Mark Devlin, an expert witness for the defense. Dr. Devlin will testify to the many dangers of this intersection, commonly referred to as Dead Man's Curve. He will testify that he inspected this intersection before the accident on May 13th, 2010, for the purpose of improving traffic safety in the town of Olney. He then reported this intersection, as the most dangerous in the town of Olney. He will testify that the absence of the stop sign was not the proximate cause of the accident. Your Honors, we are confident that once you have reviewed all of the evidence presented here today, that you will find Mr. Burnson not guilty of involuntary manslaughter and not guilty of the theft of a traffic control sign. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Counsel. Okay, is the Commonwealth ready to call its first witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, you may do so.
But first, we ask that we be notified which document is marked what letters.
Okay, well, it appears that some scavenger hunt lists, which are titled Exhibit B, C, and D have been marked as Defense Exhibit A, I believe. And looks like a CV for Mark Devlin has been marked for identification purposes as Defense Exhibit B. And then there's some sort of map that's been marked as Defense Exhibit C.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
The Commonwealth calls Pat J. Doherty to the stand.
Well, good morning, Mr. Doherty. Now, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this matter? I do. Okay, you may be seated.
May I proceed?
You may inquire when you're ready.
Please state your full name and spell your last name for the court.
My name is Pat J. Doherty. That's Doherty.
What's your current occupation, Mr. Doherty?
Well, I used to be a school teacher, but now I'm retired.
Where do you live?
I live at 222 Dean Road in Olney, Massachusetts.
Approximately how far is your house from the intersection of Jan Street and Dean Road?
Well, it's around 200 feet east, so that's pretty close by.
How long have you been living in Olney?
I've been living in Olney ever since 1957, a pretty long time.
From your years of living in Olney, what do you know about the intersection of Jan Street and Dean Road?
I know that the intersection is pretty dangerous. I remember a fatal accident that occurred in '76, which claimed the lives of 2 individuals. That's why they call it Dead Man's Curve.
What changes were made to the intersection following that accident in '76?
The city added a few more lights to the area, as well as some stop signs.
Turning your attention to May 13, 2010, did you leave your house that night?
I did. I went to a nearby convenience store, Saco Suds.
Why did you decide to go to Saco Suds?
I needed some groceries for the night.
At approximately what time did you leave for Saco Suds?
I left at around 9:30 p.m.
On the way there, did you see the stop sign at the corner of Jan Street and Dean Road?
Yes, I did. As I passed by the intersection towards Saco Suds, I did notice a stop sign there.
At approximately what time did you leave Saco Suds?
I left the store a little bit after 10 o'clock p.m.
What, if anything, did you see on your way back?
Well,
Objection, Your Honor.
What's your objection?
This question calls for narration.
No, I'm going to overrule the objection at this point. You can answer the question.
Would you like me to repeat the question, Mr. Doherty?
It's okay. Well, as I was walking back to my house, I noticed a dark pickup truck parked up against the sidewalk of Dean Road, and I thought that was strange because the lights were on, but no one was inside the driver's seat.
So, where was the driver?
The driver was standing on the tailgate of the car.
What was the driver trying to do while standing on the tailgate?
Objection, Your Honor. This testimony would be speculation.
Sure, you wish to be heard on that, counsel?
I'll rephrase the question, Your Honor.
Okay, well, I'm going to sustain the objection. Go ahead. You may ask another question.
Was the person doing anything while standing on the bed of the truck?
Yes, the person was knocking the bolts off the stop sign with some tool.
What did you do when you saw this?
I yelled out. I mean, the person was taking the stop sign.
What did the person do?
The person turned towards me. I remember something being thrown in the bed of the truck, and then the person just took off.
While the person took off, did you catch a glimpse of the license plate?
Yes, I did. At the time, I thought the license plate read MOI, but now I'm positive that it's MBY.
Did you notice anything else that might help identify the truck?
As the vehicle was speeding away, I caught some tools in the bed of the truck.
What did you do after the person drove away?
I continued on my way home through the intersection.
Did you notice anything while continuing through the intersection?
Yes, the stop sign was missing, and I knew at that point that the person in the truck had stolen it.
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation.
Sure, you wish to be heard on that, counsel?
Yes. Mr. Doherty just testified that when he was on his way there to Saco Suds, he saw that the stop sign was still there. And when he saw the person at the stop sign, the person took off and the stop sign was no longer there.
Okay, well, I'm going to sustain the objection. I'm going to strike the latter part of that answer.
What happened when you got home, Mr. Doherty?
As I was unpacking my groceries, I heard a screeching of tires and a crash outside. I knew something was wrong.
So what did you do?
I went outside as quickly as I could to the intersection.
Can you describe what you saw when you arrived at the intersection?
It was terrible. A truck had completely demolished a car. I went to the passenger side of the car, and there was blood everywhere. There was even a woman's body.
Objection, Your Honor.
What's your objection?
This testimony is more prejudicial than probative.
May I be heard, Your Honor?
Certainly, yes.
Mr. Doherty is merely an eyewitness of this accident. He is just relating to us what he saw.
Okay, well, I'm going to overrule the objection at this point. Thank you very much. So the answer will stand.
What did you do when you saw this, Mr. Doherty?
I did the first thing that came into my mind. I took out my cell phone and dialed 911.
What happened after you dialed 911?
The police came, the ambulance came. I even remember them taking the bodies out on a stretcher, but apparently it was too late for the victims.
Mr. Doherty, to the best of your knowledge, have there been any fatal accidents since stop signs were added to this intersection?
Since the city added stop signs to the intersection, there have been no fatal accidents prior to May 13th.
No further questions, Your Honors.
Thank you very much. You may cross-examine when you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Doherty.
Good morning.
Now, on your way to Saco Suds that evening, you passed the stop sign at the corner of Dean Road,
Yes, I did.
and you noticed there were low-hanging branches in front of the stop sign.
There were some branches near the stop sign, yes.
In fact, these branches snagged your glasses as you passed.
Yes, they did. They took the glasses right off my face.
And as you reached up to grab these branches, they snapped right back into the stop sign.
Well, they snapped back to wherever they were originally.
Mr. Doherty, you stated specifically that they snapped right back into the stop sign themselves, correct?
I guess so, yes, they snapped back to the stop sign.
In fact, you meant to call the DPW and complain about the situation?
Objection, Your Honors. Relevance?
Your Honor, may I respond?
Certainly.
This adds weight to the testimony, adds weight to the contention that the stop sign was not visible. The situation the stop sign is in is completely relevant to this case.
Okay, wish to be heard further?
Yes, Your Honors. As Mr. Doherty just testified, the branches were hanging so low that they were a danger to passerby, but this is not relevant to the cars that would have passed through the intersection.
Okay, well, I'm going to overrule your objection. I'll let the answer stand. You can certainly make that argument, but this is cross-examination, so I'll give counsel some leeway.
Shall I restate the question?
Yes, please.
You meant to call the DPW and complain about the situation, correct?
I meant to call the DPW because they were a threat to passerbys like me, yes.
And you left Saco Suds after 10 p.m. that evening?
Yes, I did. It was a bit after 10 p.m.
And you saw someone in a truck at the corner of Dean Road?
I did.
And this truck you noted specifically as dark blue?
At the time, I thought it was dark blue, but it could have been really any dark color.
So that's a yes?
Yes.
And this person looked at you,
The person turned towards me, yes, when I shouted out.
but you could not identify this person, correct?
No, I caught a glimpse of the person, but I can't identify him or her.
You could not identify the gender of this person?
No, like I said, I couldn't identify him.
You could not identify the age of this person?
No, I couldn't.
And you could not even identify the object which was thrown down into the truck?
No, but I had a pretty good idea of what it was.
Well, Mr. Doherty, nowhere in your affidavit did you mention any knowledge of what the object was, correct?
That's true.
And as the truck left, you managed to catch a partial license plate?
I did.
And at the time, you thought this license plate read M-O-Y?
At the time, I thought it was M-O-Y, but now it's I'm pretty sure, I'm positive actually, that it's M-B-Y.
Your Honor, motion to strike the latter part of the testimony is unresponsive to the question.
Sustain that motion, and I'd ask the witness to try to confine your answers to yes or no answers if possible.
And Mr. Doherty, you could not tell that the stop sign was missing until as you were crossing the street?
Yes, as I was walking on my way home through the intersection, I noticed that the stop sign was missing.
And you talked to the police and you told them all of this information, correct?
Yes, I talked to an officer at the scene of the accident, Mr. Don Beasley.
So that's a yes.
Yes.
But the next morning, you received a call from Sergeant Beasley about the previous night's about the testimony. I'm sorry, about the identification you had made the previous night.
Yes, he did.
Sergeant Beasley asked if you could have made a mistake in your identification.
He asked me if the license plate could have been MBY. I don't remember him asking me if there was a mistake.
Well, Mr. Doherty, he asked if the license plate could be something other than what you had told him the previous night.
Yes, he did.
And you thought about Sergeant Beasley's proposal?
Yes.
And you agreed with Sergeant Beasley?
I agreed that it was the truth, that
So
it was
that's-
MBY.
And Mr. Doherty, Sergeant Beasley did not bring any other license plates to your attention that night, right? That morning, I'm sorry.
That's right, he didn't bring up any other plates.
And Mr. Doherty, you see the defendant, Eddie Burnson, sitting in court today?
Yes, I do.
Now, you cannot tell the court today that you saw this man, Eddie Burnson, stealing the stop sign, correct?
No, but I did catch a glimpse of the figure.
So that's a no?
No.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Is there any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Mr. Doherty, what did the license plate read?
It read MBY.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Is there any recross as a result of redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, this witness may step down. Thank you very much. All right, you may call your next witness.
The Commonwealth calls Ms. Sasha Burke to the stand.
Well, good morning, Ms. Burke. Before you sit down,
yes.
would you raise your right hand and swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this matter?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you may be seated.
Your Honor, may I proceed?
You may inquire when you're ready. Yes.
Please state your full name and spell your last name for the court.
My name is Sasha Burke, which is spelled B-E-R-K.
Can you briefly describe your educational background?
Well, right now, I'm a freshman at Oregon State University, and I graduated from Olney High School, where I was elected the senior class president.
As a senior class president of Olney High School, what were your responsibilities?
I was responsible for organizing a lot of different student events. I was responsible for the annual senior prank, which was a scavenger hunt in my year.
Can you talk more about how this scavenger hunt worked?
Well, for any senior that wanted to participate, they'd pay $20 as an entry fee. And then on the night of May 13th, 2010, which was the night that the scavenger hunt took place, they got a text message with their scavenger hunt list in it.
What were on these scavenger hunt lists?
On the list, there were just a bunch of different items you could bring in for the hunt and the amount of points you'd get for bringing them in.
What were participants supposed to do with these lists?
They were supposed to use them as a point of reference to try to get as many points as possible, which would let them win the scavenger hunt.
Was there a prize for winning the scavenger hunt?
Yes, there was. There was a cash prize of $1,500, which was half of what we got from the entry fees.
So once participants found the items on the scavenger hunt lists, what were they supposed to do with them?
They were supposed to bring them back to the Olney High School parking lot, which was assigned to be a checkpoint center that night.
Once participants brought their items to the checkpoint center, what happened?
Well, at the checkpoint center, there were 5 students assigned to be checkers, and each student would take in a participant's items in their list, and they'd circle the items brought in on the person's list. Well, I made sure to supervise everything.
So as the supervisor for this event, what did you do?
Well, as the supervisor, I made sure that everything ran smoothly, and I also verified each list by making sure every item a participant got credit for had actually been brought in.
Did Mr. Burnson participate in the scavenger hunt?
Yes, he did.
Do you recognize Mr. Burnson in court today?
Yes, I do.
Please identify Mr. Burnson by an article of clothing.
Mr. Bernstein is the man wearing the red tie.
Okay, the record will note that the witness identified the defendant.
Did the defendant bring back any items for the scavenger hunt?
Yes, he did.
Did you verify his items?
Yes, I did.
How did you specifically verify the defendant's items?
Well, I looked over his items and his list together, and I made sure that every item circled had actually been brought in.
So what were these items you verified?
Well, it's been so long now, I can't remember every single one.
Your Honor, at this time, I ask that you allow me to retrieve Defense Exhibit A for Mr. Bernson's scavenger hunt list.
Okay, certainly, you may approach to do so.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may, and again, just for the record, the counsel is approaching with Defense Exhibit A.
Ms. Burke, do you recognize this document?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
This is Eddie Bernson's scavenger hunt list with the notes I took on it.
Is this a fair and accurate copy of the notes you took to verify the defendant's items?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, may I approach the bench?
For what purpose?
To
return
move
it?
this exhibit into evidence.
Okay, is there any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, certainly, you may approach, and so I think we've already got a stipulation that's been marked as Exhibit number 1, so do you wish to have this marked as Exhibit number 2?
Your Honor, may I retrieve that document for Ms. Burke to see?
Okay, but let me just find out what's...
Point of information, Your Honor, is the entire document that has been marked as Exhibit C being entered into identification?
Sure. Is that, has the witness identified all of these as items pertaining to the return of items from the scavenger hunt?
Your Honor, Ms. Burke has only identified the items that the defendant turned in for the scavenger hunt list.
Okay, so do you know which, why don't you take a moment, take a look at those items and see which portion of that exhibit refers to what the defendant turned in?
Your
You
Honor.
can ask the, you want to ask the witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, sure.
Ms. Burke, this is specifically the scavenger hunt. Is this the scavenger hunt list that the defendant turned in?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, this, just to clarify, this document has been moved into evidence. For the previous exhibit has been moved into evidence.
Well, we're not sure yet because we're not sure what you're seeking to introduce. So apparently that document is entitled Exhibit B for other purposes that the witness has. Is there an objection to that? coming
My
into evidence?
only need for clarification, Your Honor, is whether or not all of the elements of that exhibit are being entered in for evidence or merely Mr. Bernson's
Okay,
list.
it's my understanding at the present time, all you're asking is that the defendant's list is coming into evidence at this time. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
No objection, Your Honor.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, so has that been marked? Just note that. Great, thanks. Okay, so this will be now Exhibit number 2, formerly
May I
part
approach
of.
the witness?
Yes, you may.
Ms. Burke, according to the scavenger hunt list, what were the items that you verified for the defendant?
Well, Eddie Bernson brought in a fake ID, a report card with at least 3 Ds on it.
Objection, Your Honor. I believe that the other items that are turned in by Mr. Bernson are irrelevant in the case today.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
Certainly.
Your Honor, this is a factual event that happened during the scavenger hunt. This is completely relevant to the background of the scavenger hunt.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm going to overrule the objection at this time. You may renew it later, but you may answer the question.
Well, Eddie Bernson brought back a fake ID, 8 street signs, a report card with at least 3 Ds on it, a speeding ticket, a ratchet set, and a school transcript showing a 1.7 GPA or lower.
And how many points was the street sign worth?
It was worth 40 points each.
Did any other participant bring in street signs?
Yes, there were 2 other participants, I believe, Matt Brewer and Tanny King.
Can I just stop you for 1 second? I'm sorry. Again, you spoke so quickly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Did you state that there was a marking on that form identifying that Mr. Bernson had brought in a street sign? Is
Yes.
that what you said? Great. Thank you. I'm sorry. You may proceed.
So did any other participant bring in street signs?
Yes, there were 2 other participants, Matt Brewer and Tanny King.
Did Mr. Brewer or Mr. King turn in stop signs?
No, they did not.
And what were some of the notes you took on the street signs for the defendant's street sign category?
Well, I wrote down the names of some of the street signs he brought in. I wrote down Terminus, Cessation, and Terry.
And what time did the defendant bring back these items?
He brought them back at 10:27 p.m.
At 10:27 p.m., which participant was in the lead for having the most points?
Eddie Bernson was.
Did Mr. Bernson bring back any items after 10:27?
No, he didn't.
But did you see the defendant after 10:27?
Yes, I did. Around 11:30, I believe. He was hanging around the storage pod where we stored the items participants brought in when a bunch of other participants were retrieving their items.
Turn your attention to the accident at the intersection of Jan and Dean. Are you familiar with that intersection?
Yes, I am. It's about a 10-minute drive away from Olney High School.
And when did you ever hear about this accident?
Well, I heard about the accident on the night of the scavenger hunt, which was also the night of the accident, when the police came to my house and asked me if anyone had brought in a stop sign for the scavenger hunt.
Did anybody bring in a stop sign for the scavenger hunt?
Yes, one person did.
Who is the one person who turned in a stop sign for the scavenger hunt?
It was Eddie Burnson.
Did you ever tell the police that it was the defendant who turned in a stop sign?
Yes, the second time that I met with the police, I told them that Eddie Burnson had brought in a stop sign.
Why didn't you tell them the first time you met with them?
Well, the first time that I met with the police, it was already after midnight. It was very late, and the scavenger hunt had ended. So I was very tired. And when the police told me that 2 people had died, I was so shocked. I said I didn't know if anyone had brought in a stop sign or not.
Objection, Your Honor. I call for a bench conference. I believe there has been an invention of fact.
Okay, you may approach.
Your Honor, nowhere in the case materials is it included that her reasoning for telling the police what she did was based on shock.
Your Honor, may be heard.
Sure.
This is certainly a reasonable extrapolation, as you heard that this scavenger hunt started in the morning or started in the afternoon, and the police approached her at 1 a.m. It's reasonable to assume that she was shocked at that point.
I was not objecting to the time frame, merely that her main reason for what she said was based on shock, as nothing in their affidavit goes to say that.
Okay, I'll not overrule your objection. Again, I think that's a reasonable response under the circumstances.
So, Ms. Burke, did you ever tell the police that the defendant turned in the stop sign?
Yes, I did, the second time we met.
So why did you decide to tell them the second time you met that the defendant turned in the stop sign?
Well, the second time that we met, the police explained the case to me, and I realized how important it was that I tell the truth. So I told them about Eddie Burnson bringing in a stop sign.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may. I know that we've taken some time on some objections, but I'll give you another minute or so, okay? You may approach.
Your Honor, may I approach the bench?
You may. Thank you.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Okay. Counsel prepared to cross-examine this witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Good morning, Ms. Burke.
Good morning.
Now, you turned in your records of the scavenger hunt to the police, is that right?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, may I approach the bench to retrieve what has been previously marked as Defense Exhibit A, I believe?
You may. This is that now Exhibit 2, or do you want?
The other 2 as well.
Okay.
May I approach the stand?
You may.
Are these fair and accurate copies of the scavenger hunt lists of Tanny Kang, Matt Brewer, and Eddie Burnson that you turned in to the police?
Yes, they are.
Now, according to these lists, 3 people turned in signs in the Any Street sign category, is that right?
That's right.
Tanny Kang turned in a slow sign.
Yes, he did.
Matt Brewer turned in slow, no U-turn, and one-way signs.
Yes, he did.
But according to these records, Eddie Burnson didn't turn in any traffic control signs, did he?
Well, I didn't write down all his street signs. He brought in a stop sign, but that was the only traffic control sign.
Motion to strike is unresponsive to my question. I asked specifically as to what the record stated.
Okay, I'm going to sustain that objection, so I'm going to strike that answer. And,
Objection, Your Honor. These 2 specific scavenger hunt lists haven't been entered into evidence yet.